Hello, everyone. I hope you're all doing well today. My name is Ujasvi Kaul, and I'm a clinically trained psychologist working at JIPS Hospital and the Addiction Center. I'm really glad to have this opportunity to talk to you about something that touches all of us in different ways: mental health. Let me start with a simple question. Have you ever tried to balance a table on just three legs? Maybe one leg was a little wobbly, or maybe one was missing entirely. What happens? The table can't stand straight, right? It wobbles, and sometimes it even collapses under the weight. Our mental health works in much the same way. Our mental health works in much the same way. It is supported by different legs or factors that keep us balanced. But when one of these factors is off balance, we start to feel the effects in different parts of our lives emotionally, mentally, and even physically. Today, we are going to explore this idea by looking at the complex web of factors that influence mental health. Now, this may sound overwhelming, but trust me, we are going to break it down so it's easier to understand. Why is this so important? Because when you understand how these factors work together, you can better understand your own experiences or those of your loved ones. One question that often comes up: why me? Why do I feel this way? Why other people seem to be doing just fine? It's a question I hear a lot in my work. The truth is, mental health isn't just about one thing. It's not just about your genes or your environment or how much stress you have. It's about all of these things working together: your biology, your social interactions, even your thought patterns and beliefs. Think of it like this: while you and someone else might be dealing with the same external stress, your internal web, your unique mix of factors might be completely different. That's why mental health issues can feel so personal and why it's so important to understand what's happening beneath the surface. So, today we'll talk about what makes up this web. Everything from biological aspects like hormones and genetics to social influences and even the way we think and find meaning in life. We'll explore how these factors interact with each other and, more importantly, what can we do when things start to feel overwhelming. By the end of this, my hope is that you will walk away with a better understanding of not just your mental health issues, but also why they affect each person so differently. It's about peeling back the layers and seeing the whole picture. Let's start with one of the biggest pieces of the puzzle: biological factors, those that relate to how our physical bodies function. These factors might not always be visible, but they have a huge impact on how we think or feel. For example, did you know that the kind of food you can eat can directly influence your mental health? It's true. Some people may experience changes in mood and or even anxiety and depression due to certain foods. This is because of something called the gut brain axis. In simpler terms, there's a direct line of communication between your gut and your brain. The bacteria living in your stomach send signal to your brain. And when the system is off, whether from poor diet or other factors, it can affect how you feel mentally. So, something as seemingly unrelated as unhealthy gut can actually cloud your mind or lower your mood. Another biological factor that plays a very big role in our mental health is hormonal imbalance. I'm sure you must have all heard about it. Hormones are like little chemical messengers in the body. When they are not balanced, it's as if the messages they send get all jumbled up. One key hormone is cortisol, also known as the stress hormone. I'm sure you must have heard about it, right? It's released when we are under stress, which is helpful in short bursts. But if you're always stressed, your body keeps pumping out cortisol, and over time, this can lead to feelings of anxiety, depression, or even problems with memory. Then there's genetics. Many people know that mental health issues can run in families. If your parents or guardians struggle with conditions like depression or anxiety, your chances of facing similar challenges might be higher. But here's the thing, having a genetic predisposition doesn't mean it's your fate. It's more likely that your body is a little bit more sensitive to certain triggers, like stress or life changes. Lastly, let's talk about chronic pain. That this one often gets overlooked, but it's important. Imagine waking up every day in physical pain, whether it's from an old injury or something like a disease like arthritis. Over time, that pain takes a mental toll. It's exhausting and it can be hard to stay positive when your body is always hurting. This can lead to emotional struggles like anxiety or depression because pain just doesn't live in your body, it affects your mind too. When you put all of these biological factors together, it becomes clear why mental health is so complex. Whether it's the food you eat, the hormones in your body, your genes, or physical pain, these things are all interconnected and can play a significant role in shaping how you feel. As we have seen, biological factors play a significant role in our mental health, but they are only one side of the equation. Let's shift focus to social factors. These are the elements tied to our surroundings, our relationships, and how we navigate society. Even though we all experience social influences, we sometimes underestimate just how deeply they can affect our emotional well being. Let's start with trauma. Trauma refers to life experiences that are so intense and overwhelming that they leave a lasting emotional mark. Things like violence, abuse, or the sudden death of a loved one. Trauma changes the way our brain interprets the world around us. Even after the traumatic event has passed, our brain remains on high alert, as if danger could strike again at any moment. This constant state of fear or hypervigilance can lead to issues like anxiety, flashbacks, or emotional numbness. Next, we have neglect and abuse, especially when experienced during childhood. Children who grow up feeling neglected, who don't receive enough emotional or physical care, can develop a deep insecurity that carries into adulthood. It's like they never learned how to trust the world or to feel safe. Abuse, whether it's physical, emotional, or verbal, leaves deep scars too. People who have been abused may struggle with feelings of worthlessness, shame, or even constant fear, even long after the abuse has stopped. These emotional wounds can stay open, affecting relationships, self esteem, and mental health. Another major social factor is isolation. Human beings are social creatures. We are wired for connection. When we don't have strong relationships or a sense of belonging, it can lead to feelings of loneliness. And loneliness isn't just about being physically alone, it can happen even in a crowd, especially if you feel misunderstood or disconnected from those around you. In today's world, where many interactions happen online, social isolation is becoming more and more common. While technology connects us in new ways, it can also leave us feeling more distant and alone. And the loneliness can be a heavy burden on mental health, increasing the risk of anxiety, depression, and other physical health issues. Let's not forget about economic insecurity, the stress of financial strain. When money is tight, it's hard to focus on much else. Constantly worrying about how to pay bills or afford basic needs creates a mental load that can feel really overwhelming. It's like a persistent hum in the background of your mind, reminding you of the next financial hurdle always. This type of stress can take a significant toll, leading to chronic anxiety, frustration, and even depressive. What's interesting about social factors is that they are just outside influences. They actually shape the way we see ourselves and the world. Trauma, neglect, isolation, and financial struggles, all of them contribute to our mental health by changing our perceptions, our emotions, and even our brain chemistry. Now that we have covered biological and social factors, let's dive into some of the behavioral factors. These are the habits, actions, and lifestyle choices that directly impact our mental health. Sometimes, without even realizing it, the way we live day to day can either support or harm our emotional well being. One of the most damaging behaviors is substance abuse. People often turn to drugs or alcohol as a way to cope with difficult emotions. It may feel like a quick fix to numb the pain or to escape reality, but in the long run, it only makes things worse. Substances like alcohol, nicotine, drugs interfere with our brain's natural chemistry, altering how we process emotions, how we think, and make decisions. Over time, the brain becomes dependent on these substances to function. And instead of relieving distress, it actually worsens anxiety and other related mental health issues that we already may have. What starts as a temporary escape often turns into a vicious cycle that's really hard to break free from. Let's talk about diet and sleep next. Two basic yet often overlooked aspects of our mental health. Your brain is an incredibly powerful organ, but just like a car needs fuel, your brain needs nutrients and rest to function properly. If you are eating a poor diet loaded with junk food or low in essential nutrients, your brain isn't getting what it needs to regulate emotions and keep your brain sharp. Similarly, a lack of sound sleep can have a profound effect on your mental state. Sleep is when your brain gets a chance to rest, process emotions, and repair itself. Without getting enough sleep, you may find yourself irritable, anxious, and unable to concentrate. Over time, chronic sleep deprivation can even contribute to conditions like depression, anxiety, and other sleep disorders. Physical inactivity is another major behavioral factor. It may seem simple, but moving your body regularly is one of the most effective ways to support mental health. When you exercise, your brain releases endorphins, which are natural chemicals that make us feel good. Regular physical activity can help reduce stress, improve mood, and even alleviate symptoms of depression. But when you are inactive, spending too much time sitting or lying down, we miss out on these natural mood booster. Plus, inactivity can lead to other physical problems like weight gain, which can further impact our self esteem and mental health. Lastly, let's look at destructive thinking. This is when we all fall into patterns of negative self talk, constantly telling ourselves things like, I'm not good enough, I'll never succeed, nothing will ever change. These thoughts can be incredibly powerful, and over time, they shape the way we see ourselves and the world. If you're always expecting the worst or are being overly critical of yourself, it's easy to get trapped in a cycle of negativity. And the longer this cycle goes on, the harder it becomes to break free from it. Destructive thinking is like wearing dark glasses. You begin to see everything, including yourself, in a negative light, even when there's no reason to. By recognizing these behavioral factors, substance abuse, poor diet, lack of sleep, inactivity, and negative self talk, we can start to make small changes that have a big impact on our mental health. Whether it's adjusting what we eat, moving our bodies more, or challenging those destructive thoughts. The choices we make every day can help shape a healthier, happier mind. Now let's explore existential factors, the deeper, more abstract struggles that impact our mental health. These are the big questions we face about life, meaning, and our place in the world. Though harder to define, they can be just as important as the more tangible factors we have discussed so far. One of the most common existential challenges is the lack of meaning or purpose. Have you ever found yourself asking, what's the point of all this? When we feel like our life lacks purpose, it can create a deep sense of emptiness without something to guide us or something meaningful to work towards. Everything feels dull and unmotivating. Imagine going through your daily routine without a reason to get excited or a goal to strive for. It's like floating through life without a map. Over time, this lack of direction can lead to feelings of hopelessness and even depression. Purpose, on the other hand, is what fuels us, gives us energy to tackle challenges and make decisions with confidence. Without it, it's easy to feel adrift, lost, and disconnected. Another existential factor is experiencing a spiritual crisis. Now, this does not necessarily mean a crisis involving religion, although it can. It's more about a deeper questioning of one's beliefs, values, sense of self. People going through a spiritual crisis might ask themselves, what do I truly believe in? Or what kind of life am I living? This kind of internal questioning can be deeply unsettling, especially if someone has built their life on certain values or beliefs that they now find shaky or unsatisfying. It can create a sense of confusion as if the ground that they've been standing on is no longer solid. For some, this may lead to anxiety, feelings of isolation, or even depression as they grapple with what truly matters to them. Grief is another such powerful factor. When we experience the loss of a loved one, a relationship, or even a good job, it's not just an emotional experience, it's a challenge to our very understanding of life itself. Grief brings us face to face with some of the hardest questions about existence. Why do we love if we are going to lose? Or what happens after death? These aren't easy questions to answer, and the uncertainty can create a deep emotional struggle. For some, grief can spiral into a severe disorder like depression or anxiety, especially if they feel overwhelmed by the loss or don't have the tools to process their emotions in a healthy way. Grief forces us to confront life's fragility and unpredictability, and it can shake our sense of stability. Lastly, the existential struggle is having an unclear self identity. This happens when someone feels disconnected from who they really are. It's that unsettling feeling of living a life that doesn't quite feel like your own, or constantly shaping yourself to fit the expectations of others. Trust me, we have all been there. It can feel like wearing a mask that never really comes off, always acting, never being. People struggling with it, their identity often feel lost, unsure of what they really want, or even who they really are. This disconnection can lead to anxiety, self doubt, or lack of confidence. Whether you are unsure of yourself, every decision feels harder, every challenge feels bigger, and finding peace within yourself becomes an uphill battle that you have to fight every day. These factors, lack of meaning, crisis, grief, and an unclear self identity, are subtle, but their impact on our mental health is profound. They force us to grapple with some of life's most difficult and fundamental questions, and the way we confront these struggles can either strengthen us or leave us feeling more overwhelmed. Understanding these factors is crucial in understanding not only our emotional health, but also how we find purpose and peace in life. So, as we have explored today, mental distress isn't caused by just one thing, it's a result of a complex web of interacting factors. Think of it like a delicate ecosystem. Sometimes it's our biology, some other times it's our environment, our habits, or even deeper existential questions. Often it's a combination of these factors that create the mental and emotional struggles we face. But here's where the shift begins. The good news is that just as these factors can pull us down, understanding them gives us the power to take control. Each element we have discussed today, whether it's a hormonal imbalance, unresolved past trauma, unhealthy habits, or a sense of existential confusion, can be addressed. And that's the key. Awareness leads to action. For example, if it's biological, like hormonal imbalance, as we have talked before, you might work with a doctor to explore treatment options. If it's trauma from your past, talking to a therapist or a counselor that could help you unpack and heal from these experiences. It's if these behaviors, such as poor sleep habits or a tendency towards negative self talk, there are tangible steps you can take, like building better routines or practicing mindfulness. And if it's existential, it's like grappling with meaning and purpose in life. Sometimes exploring spiritual and or philosophical beliefs or even connecting with other people on a much deeper level. This can too provide clarity and relief. The most important takeaway from today's talk is this: these challenges are not your fault. You are not broken and you're certainly not alone. These factors are a part of a very complex web we all navigate at some point in our lives. And there's always hope. Just as this web can feel like it's tightening around us, it can also be loosened one thread at a time. Whether it's small changes like getting more sleep or starting an exercise routine, or larger steps like seeking therapy or exploring your sense of identity, you can begin to untangle the web. You don't have to explore everything at once. Mental health is a journey, not a destination. Thank you all for your attention today. I truly hope this talk has given a better understanding of the many layers of mental health and perhaps even sparked some ideas for you to how to support yourself better or others. Remember, it's okay to seek help. It's okay to take that first step. You deserve to feel balanced, supported, and with the right tools, you can reclaim your mental well being one step at a time. Thank you.